The long vacation is close upon us, and I can do without him. But if you would care to come down here and take his place, you would be very useful to me, and if there should be anything to be done in the Bellinghams' case, I am sure you would make up in enthusiasm for any deficiency in experience." "I couldn't really take Jervis's place," said I, "but if you would let me help you in any way it would be a great kindness. I would rather clean your boots than be out of it altogether." "Very well. Let us leave it that you come down here as soon as Barnard has done with you. You can have Jervis's room, which he doesn't often use nowadays, and you will be more happy here than elsewhere, I know. I may as well give you my latchkey now. I have a duplicate upstairs, and you understand that my chambers are yours, too, from this moment." He handed me the latchkey, and I thanked him warmly from my heart, for I felt sure that the suggestion was made, not for any use that I should be to him, but for my own peace of mind. I had hardly finished speaking when a quick step on the paved walk caught my ear. "Here is Jervis," said Thorndyke. "We will let him know that there is a locum tenens ready to step into his shoes when he wants to be off." He flashed the lantern across the path, and a few moments later his junior stepped up briskly, with a bundle of newspapers tucked under his arm. It struck me that Jervis looked at me a little queerly when he recognized me in the dim light. Also, he was a trifle constrained in his manner, as if my presence were an embarrassment. He listened to Thorndyke's announcement of our newly made arrangement without much enthusiasm, and with none of his customary facetious comments. And again I noticed a quick glance at me, half curious, half uneasy, and wholly puzzling to me. "That's all right," he said when Thorndyke had explained the situation. "I dare say you'll find Berkeley as useful as me, and in any case, he'll be better here than staying on with Barnard." He spoke with unwonted gravity, and there was in his tone a solicitude for me that attracted my notice and that of Thorndyke as well, for the latter looked at him curiously, though he made no comment. After a short silence, however, he asked, "And what news does my learned brother bring? There is a mighty shouting among the outer barbarians, and I see a bundle of newspapers under my learned friend's arm. Has anything in particular happened?" Jervis looked more uncomfortable than ever. "Well, yes," he replied hesitatingly. "Something has happened. There, it's no use beating about the bush. Berkeley may as well learn it from me as from those yelling devils outside." He took a couple of papers from his bundle and silently handed one to me and the other to Thorndyke. Jervis's ominous manner, naturally enough, alarmed me not a little. I opened the paper with a nameless dread, but whatever my vague fears, they fell far short of the occasion. And when I saw those yells from without crystallize into scare headlines and flaming capitals, I turned for a moment sick and dizzy with fear. The paragraph was only a short one, and I read it through in less than a minute. "The missing finger. Dramatic discovery at Woodford. The mystery that has surrounded the remains of a mutilated human body, portions of which have been found in various places in Kent and Essex, has received a partial and very sinister solution. The police have, all along, suspected that those remains were those of a Mr. John Bellingham, who disappeared under circumstances of some suspicion about 2 years ago. There is now no doubt upon the subject, for the finger which was missing from the hand that was found at Sidcup has been discovered at the bottom of a disused well, together with a ring which has been identified as one habitually worn by Mr. John Bellingham. The house in the garden of which the well is situated was the property of the murdered man, and was occupied at the time of the disappearance by his brother, Mr. Godfrey Bellingham. But the latter left it very soon after, and it has been empty ever since. Just lately it has been put in repair, and it was in this way that the well came to be emptied and cleaned out. It seems that Detective Inspector Badger, who was searching the neighborhood for further remains, heard of the emptying of the well and went down in the bucket to examine the bottom, where he found the 3 bones and the ring. Thus the identity of the body is established beyond all doubt, and the question that remains is, who killed John Bellingham? It may be remembered that a trinket, apparently broken from his watch chain, was found in the grounds of this house on the day that he disappeared, and that he was never again seen alive. What may be the import of these facts, time will show. That was all, but it was enough. I dropped the paper to the ground and glanced round furtively at Jervis, who sat gazing gloomily at the toes of his boots. It was horrible. It was incredible. The blow was so crushing it left my faculties numb, and for a while I seemed unable to think intelligibly. I was aroused by Thorndyke's voice, calm, businesslike, composed. "Time will show, indeed. But meanwhile we must go warily. And don't be unduly alarmed, Berkeley. Go home. Take a good dose of bromide with a little stimulant and turn in. I am afraid this has been rather a shock to you." I rose from my chair like one in a dream and held out my hand to Thorndyke. And even in the dim light and in my dazed condition, I noticed that his face bore a look that I had never seen before, the look of a granite mask of fate, grim, stern, inexorable. My two friends walked with me as far as the gateway at the top of Inner Temple Lane, and as we reached the entry a stranger, coming quickly up the lane, overtook and passed us. In the glare of the lamp outside the porter's lodge he looked at us quickly over his shoulder, and though he passed on without halt or greeting, I recognized him with a certain dull surprise, which I did not understand then and do not understand now. It was Mr. Jellicoe. I shook hands once more with my friends and strode out into Fleet Street, but as soon as I was outside the gate I made direct for Neville's Court. What was in my mind I do not know, only that some instinct of protection led me there, where my lady lay unconscious of the hideous menace that hung over her. At the entrance to the court a tall, powerful man was lounging against the wall, and he seemed to look at me curiously as I passed, but I hardly noticed him and strode forward into the narrow passage. By the shabby gateway of the house I halted and looked up at such of the windows as I could see over the wall. They were all dark. All the inmates, then, were in bed. Vaguely comforted by this, I walked on to the New Street end of the court and looked out. Here, too, a man, a tall, thick-set man, was loitering, and as he looked inquisitively into my face, I turned and re-entered the court, slowly retracing my steps. As I again reached the gate of the house, I stopped to look once more at the windows, and turning, I found the man whom I had last noticed close behind me. Then, in a flash of dreadful comprehension, I understood. These two were plain-clothes policemen. For a moment a blind fury possessed me. An insane impulse urged me to give battle to this intruder, to avenge upon this person the insult of his presence. Fortunately, the impulse was but momentary, and I recovered myself without making any demonstration. But the appearance of those two policemen brought the peril into the immediate present, imparted to it a horrible actuality. A chilly sweat of terror stood on my forehead, and my ears were ringing when I walked with faltering steps out into Fetter Lane. End of chapter 17.